Hi, RUOLIN.
Hi, Debbie. Nice to meet you on the phone.
It is so nice to meet you. I am in love with this entire series. I watched all 10 episodes and I had to watch nonstop. I binged it.
Wow.
I'm beyond enchanted by every single episode. I know you directed 2, 8, and 5, and then you also did the storyboarding on episode 1. The progression of this series is so spectacular. We see each of our characters growing and maturing and learning things. Yi and Jin and Peng especially. Of course, Peng's constant is he does love his food.
Right.
But to watch friendships with the magical creatures developing, and for each episode to introduce us to a new magical creature from a quote-unquote children's storybook is just spectacular. I don't even know how you even begin with a series like this, a story like this. I love the original Abominable film, but this is so far beyond that. Just spectacular.
Thank you so much. I think, thank you. This is really our goal as well. Our EP, Jim, Catherine, Ethel, and it escapes me. It's Tiffany, really. Tiffany, yes. Ethel and Tiff. I always call them Ethel and Tiff, but just brain fart. But our goal is to really extract from that movie and elevate, bring more fantastical creatures and really flesh out these character relationships. And I think we achieved our goal. So I'm very, very proud and very honored to be on the team.
Oh, you absolutely achieved your goal with every episode. And to conclude with episode 10, the way it's ended, we're perfectly primed. I want season 2 now. I want it. But I'm curious for you, stepping into this with the film as a predecessor to this series, what considerations did you have as a director and as a storyboard artist for that first pilot episode? What considerations did you have to concern yourself with in going forward with this series?
We definitely want to capture the character dynamics between our trio, Yi, Jin, and Peng, to continue their even tighter bond between them as friends, and then now they're almost like as close as family. On top of it, we wanted to bring back Everest and say, oh, the adventure is not over. If anything, it's only the beginning. And then as well as we wanted to bring in more dimensionality to the characters. Sometimes my thoughts to the movie is that it's really great and it's super fantastical, but sometimes I feel like it's only scratching the surface of the exploration of characters. So this time around, we wanted to bring in ups and downs, stakes, danger. We wanted to make it feel even more real and more immersive in this fantastical world.
Well, you definitely make it more real in terms of the stakes get elevated, the stakes get higher in each one of these episodes, especially as we get down to the 2-part episode 9 and 10, the Chinese New Year. By then, the stakes are really high, and it's very palpable. The way that this is developed, we feel the tension and the fear of what is happening, because by that point, we are so invested in each of, not only our trio, but in each of our magical creatures. Todd the Toad, Feng Wang, Everett, we've got our sewer koi. Each one is just so spectacular. And the anthropomorphic properties of them get stronger and more relatable. as adventures ensue. And a lot of that, I think, is aided by the character of Peng, who becomes, instead of just being the sidekick kid, he really steps up his game as we move through this. So by the time we get to episode 8 and Todd the Toad, he's really become front and center with some of his antics, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah. I mean, like, all these characters are just so fun. I love how Peng is growing up, so he's a little bit more mature, and he is even self-aware of that fact that, oh, I'm maturing, so I'm doing this and that, and then sometimes he's like, hey, I have an idea, that which never happens to him or something, so that's really funny, that brings in the humor. On top of that, I really love Jin. He is the perfect, like, embodiment of, I'd say, a funny stereotype of, like, you know, Chinese person is like, oh, he's very ambitious, he's overachieving, but at the same time, he's also very vain. He's trying to become a doctor because it looks cool, but at the same time, deep down, he's really caring, and he loves his family and friends, and he really, like, he wants to be loyal. He goes out of his way to, you know, have self-sacrifice in order to help his friends. So, yeah, Jin is a standout character for me, definitely. And Yi, of course, she is so hardworking and selfless. And of course, because of his ambition, because the desire that he wants to help the creature, that drive, made him sometimes do irrational things or be really reckless. But that's what like makes these three characters sing so well, like in their character dynamics. So I love all of them.
And they're so relatable to everybody. Yeah. I just love episode 5 that you directed. Jin's new look with his white doctor's coat is, number one, it's very funny. Very funny. And that's something that we see from beginning to end of this series is the humor. Some of it is very tongue-in-cheek. A lot of it plays on the social media zeitgeist and what's happening out in the world. And it just works so well. And I'm curious, when you're directing animation like this, how difficult is it to find that balance between the humor and the heart that we see, as well as the adventure? Because you're trying to pack it all in there, but you got to get that mix right.
Man, I really have to give most of the credits to Tiff and Ethel. Their writings are just so, like, sometimes hit the spot so right. And I'm coming here, take their scripts, and then just basically say, how can we translate it, not visually, but also timing-wise when we do the editing. We try to time it so that their jokes really, like, spot on. And we can almost hear their voices in our head when we're storyboarding these sequences. So, yeah, thanks to Tiff and Ethel for their amazing and funny script. And oftentimes when we launch the episodes to our board artists, we like really crack up and then have a good time when we're reading the script and then discussing the scenes and how we can make it really work. So I think it's not even that difficult if we have the foundation of the story. And then like the emotional realism, that's where the humor comes in. When we play the characters right, when they act like themselves, the humor just naturally comes.
And the humor, it's spot on, and it's time. The timing is so perfectly done in each of these episodes so that the jokes land, the one-liners land, and it's done appropriately at the right time so that the balance of the episode isn't disrupted or the balance of the character dynamics. But this is also a testament to your voice actors. They infuse so much life and character into each one of these characters. Alan Cumming is hilarious as Mr. Burnish and his little mouse, Duchess. And
Duchess, yeah.
I'm just so in love with Duchess the mouse. Each one of these characters, and I have to say, Chloe is great as Yi, but here again, Ethan Lowe really is the one who captures your heart with his enthusiasm, his ebullience and effervescence. The casting is impeccable with this voicing. Absolutely impeccable. Yes. Big part of this series that I appreciate is not only the diversity of the characters, but also the wonderful eye-opening adventures into the Asian culture. Every episode, we're learning something new about the Asian culture. Be it food, be it old Nini thinking a stove is haunted and believing in spirits and the myths of the past. The younger generation finally dismissing things and then embracing them. This is so key and so important today. And obviously, this was very important in designing each one of these episodes from script all the way to screen. And it's captured beautifully in the animation itself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that we have a lot of Asian people in our staff, including our composer, myself, Vanessa, and a lot of our designers, we just basically have, we have some understanding of Asian culture, and we have the desire to learn more about it and be more interested in it and capture the authenticity. And then also just everybody gets together and discuss, for example, Todd the Toad. We look at the original designs from the traditional design of Todd the Toad, and then say, this is very interesting. It's not only got an interesting cultural history to it, and how that ties into our story, but also how can we make that creature come alive and be really, really funny, like how we portray it in the episode. That all thanks to our really diverse and authentic staff on our show.
I have learned so much watching this series. It's spectacular. Now, you mentioned a very important part of the series, and that is your composer, George Shaw. How involved were you with the scoring and what your episodes in particular you wanted musically? And something that I really appreciate is that the end title music in every episode is different depending on the episode. Such as for the Todd the Toad episode, that's got a jazzy end score to it. Then, of course, we've got various classical violin pieces throughout every episode. Some episodes we infuse more of an Asian feel to it with the instrumentation. So I'm curious how involved you were working with George for the music on your episodes.
Well, I have to be really honest. I think this is more of a Jim question, our showrunner, Jim Schumann. But I do sit in some of the music spotting sessions with them. And of course, George, he takes on the brunt of the work and then really come in with his extensive knowledge of all kinds of instruments and all kinds of musical styles. And he would say, I feel like I want Chinese flavor, but also modern kind of contemporary beat to it or something. So George would come in with all these really awesome takes on our episode and scene to scene. And then, of course, sometimes I'll sit in and with Jim to look through the episode and say, we feel like the music here can be a little more epic, or we feel like the music here can be a little more subdued. Then we will tell George, say, maybe you try this and that. But it's all George and Jim.
One of the big episodes for you is actually episode 2, Welcome Home, Everest. Number 1, we've got Yi is really experimenting with her violin music, which here again, George does an amazing job with taking essentially the same piece, but then changing it based on the styling of it, be it country, contemporary, hip hop, which was so much fun. But with episode 2, you're charged with also reintroducing us to Mr. Burnish and to Duchess. So this is a very key episode in this series. Are there any particular challenges that you face with an episode like that? Because you do have to really set the bar right there to catch everybody up if they haven't seen the film.
One of the things that we have to do sort of fine-tuning is Mr. Burnish's acting. Like in storyboard process, we basically go back and forth and do a lot of revisions just to refine every single drawing of Mr. Burnish to make sure that his acting is spot on, where it really fits his voice acting and really portrays his character as a changed man from when we saw him last in the movie to now reintroducing him as a completely different sort of a philosophy. And so his transformation and his like internal conflict where he's debating whether he wants to get into this whole like creature business versus he wants to like distance himself from the character and eventually come to a difficult conclusion. For him, that is a transformation that we wanted to show on screen. So a lot of fine-tuning on his expressions and his body poses, and then of course eventually he breaks out into this like a typical like classic Mr. Burnish and Duchess shenanigans. So we inject a lot of like funny visual gags to help showcase how hilarious and awesome his character is.
Do you have a favorite character that you have worked on in this series?
I'd say maybe Jin, because Jin is just this very fun and complex and layered character.
And he's also a very snazzy dresser.
Yes, for sure. I just really love his personality. Like he's a fun character to watch on screen. Like in real life, maybe his cockiness and then his vainness is gonna get on my nerves, but on screen he's so funny to watch.
Well, I've got one last question for you, RUOLIN, because I know Caitlin's going to pull you away from me. I'm really curious, what is the gift that animation gives you? People go into filmmaking, some go into graphic arts, some become illustrators, but animation is so special and magical. I'm curious, what is the gift that it gives you?
I think it's the joy of collaboration with the entire team of people to make something and work on it for months, if not years, to achieve our final goal. Using our collective creative talents and imagination. That's something, solo jobs like illustrators or, even for live action filmmakers, they probably face more like logistical stress than animation people do. And all we do all day is just have fun, really, and use our imagination and just draw funny pictures and tell each other funny stories.
Well, you have drawn wonderfully funny pictures, and you've told some wonderfully funny and heartwarming stories here. And I want a season 2, and I hope you're back for that.
I hope so, too. Keep watching. Thank you so much.
RUOLIN, thank you. Thank you so much, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.